To have everybody here. Appreciate those who showed up early to have some snacks and coffee. Feel free to refill. I guess we should start by approval of the minutes from the 4/19 meeting. Does anybody have a motion to approve?
Yes, sir. Okay.
And second? Check. Okay. So Don's going to help me out with Robert's rules because I've tried to study it a little bit. But everybody good? Might be because we did a lot. This is our organizational meeting. It is in the first meeting of the fall. So we've got quite a few new things. First of all, welcome to our new senators. If you don't mind, if you're a new senator, could you stand and then we'll just tell everybody who we are, what department we're in. Yeah. Start here.
My name is Jose Luis Castaneda, and I'm just
I'm Stephanie Todd, and I'm in the English department. Shelly Epicello, from the education.
Mark Stoutenberg from California. I'm Hart from UTC.
Noah Lastly, library.
We did social council and justice.
And I think we have at least one person. I think you returning for a second term. Is anybody else returning for a second term? So, fantastic. So we appreciate you guys being willing to take that on. We're going to have an interesting and I think very good year. We've got some very positive things we're going to be looking at, some things we'll have to wrestle with a little bit, but I'm really looking forward to it. So the next thing is confirming the faculty senate officers. That's the way the handbook describes it, confirming. So I have nominated Claire McCullough as our vice president. And there's Claire over there. Do we have a move to confirm?
So moved.
Okay. And a second?
Second.
Jamie? Okay, so someone had to, should we do just a voice? Let's just do it by voice. No, this is just vice president.
Yes.
Yeah, vice president. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so now Jennifer has stepped in, and she's already worked before she's been confirmed. She's agreed to serve as the secretary for this year. Do we have anybody who moved to confirm her? And a second. Diane, a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, you're in. Okay, so is that? Yes. So, walking this way, make it all official. We do have a sign-in sheet here. Did anybody not get this? Okay, next, Don has agreed to serve as parliamentarian. We do not need a vote for that, but I would like to thank him for his service again. So appreciate it, Don, so much. The faculty committees. Wow, that was a little bit of a haul trying to get that all put together. What I really appreciate is over the last few days, I've had a handful of changes because some department heads and some faculty members had some requests because they wanted to serve, because they wanted to be involved. And a couple of changes are because some people are no longer here, that kind of thing. So we did the survey back in, I guess, April. How do we handle this, Don?
Last year, we just had a vote to confirm the appointments without decision by basically affirming that the committees were okay with their assignments.
Okay. Yeah, and it is once again in the handbook to confirm the appointment by the committee on committees. Does anybody have any discussion, any questions? Okay, anybody want to make a move that we confirm that this has? So we have to have that. So it is a motion. So do we have to have a hand? Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, super. Confirmed. I appreciate that. One other thing that the Committee on Committees confirmed or appointed, and we don't have a rule for this in case anybody has any discussion, and that is that Beth has agreed to serve as our new UFC rep. The University Faculty Councils is faculty senate president from each university in the system, or college in the system, and one faculty rep, and she's agreed to do that. We don't have a policy how to do that other than the Committee on Committees voted to approve that. If anybody has any questions about that, we probably need to get that in the handbook.
Just a couple questions. The first one, we want to confirm, sorry. It's a 1 year,
Finishing up.
Finishing up.
Finishing up.
Yeah, Gavin was our UFC rep, so she's finishing with Gavin.
Gavin was finishing up finance.
Yeah.
The other thing is that there is a policy for how the person, not how they're selected, but UFC has a policy of it has to be someone who's been on Senate within so many years and that type of thing. So it's not, and then what has happened with us in the past is last year we gave someone quickly to the executive committee mix. That's how it works.
So do we then necessarily need to confirm?
You can if you want to. You got it on the agenda or
I
no?
don't think it's policy. I'm fine with all unless anybody has any objections. And thank you for your service. We really appreciate it. That's going to be very important. There are connections to a lot of things that are going on in the system. I have stepped in as the secretary for that. Gavin was the secretary. It's our year to be the secretary for that body. So I've been doing that, and it's really been eye-opening to see how everybody at the other schools, universities think about everything that's going on, to be connected. So it's very close to that. We really appreciate it. Okay, so I am going to stand up if you guys don't mind. Just give you guys a little bit of information. First, some background on myself and kind of where I feel that we are. And then some goals, and then some important issues that I think we need to keep our eye on this year. So let me just start out by saying, if you don't know me, I've been here, this is my, I'm starting my 11th year. So I've been the interim department head in theater and now the chair of the theater program, one or the other for the past 5 years. I've been on the handbook committee for 2.5 years, and last year, of course, was the president-elect. I've lived through department realignments, budget cuts, and some austerity things that we're trying to get our heads around. And I realized in the course of that, I started defining myself as a contrarian, but not an obstructionist. I have strong opinions, but I'm not standing in the way of progress. I love change. I thrive on change. It's probably a theater thing. I really enjoy seeing what new and better ways we can do things, and I love being part of a community that's wrestling with things. So you guys will probably see some of that in me. Another thing that I started realizing in the middle of all this stuff that I've done the past couple of years, my eyes were just opened to some of the major shifts in higher ed that probably a lot of us are aware of. If you're not aware of them, hopefully by the end of this next little bit, you'll have a little bit more of a window into that. But I became kind of taken aback by the very corporate nature of how things were shifting, because I had always said I don't want to be part of a corporation. That's why I went to work as a professor. But I also understand, after having done some reading, and Jimmy, could you really pass the one thing out that says book excerpts? Is that it? Okay. I read a couple of books that kind of filled me in. One of them was recommended by our chancellor. It's called The Innovative University. And the other was recommended by a faculty member called The Fall of the Faculty. Kind of opposing not opposing, they're different viewpoints. The same issues being discussed from two viewpoints. So I put a few excerpts in there for you guys to look over. So what I really realize is that I think as faculty members, and first of all, I am first and foremost an advocate for the faculty. That's how I see my role. Once again, not an instructionist to progress, but an advocate for the faculty. And I think one of the things we need to do, is, especially to incoming faculty members, is kind of be sure that they know they should be aware of some of these things. Because my first few years, I had no idea where higher ed was going or how we were going to be directly affected by it. And if I hadn't known, I could have seen a lot of it coming. So these two books. The one, The Fall of the Faculty, is a guy named Ginsberg. And these are both based on a large number of case studies that you guys can read. And they're both pretty good reads by themselves. But it kind of explains to the faculty the pitfalls of common corporate structures that we're posing on higher ed. And honestly, it'll make you a little paranoid, so take it with a grain of salt. But he does a good job of explaining the relationship of tenure to academic freedom, which I don't think we always have our heads around. And I know over the past couple of years, as we've wrestled with the handbook, which we have a new handbook, that's been a major concern because it is one of the big issues we're facing as faculty members across America. What is happening to tenure, and how does that, what that translates to us is academic freedom. But as you guys will see on there, I also put our the Campus Free Speech Act that provides us in this state an interesting amount of leeway as far as academic freedom goes. So we have a very unique situation here, but we do need to keep our eye on the ball of what is tenure and how that relates to academic freedom, how that gives us the freedom to explore difficult subject matters and to say sometimes difficult things that run contrary to popular opinion. So he does a good job of that. Then the Christensen hiring. Christensen does a lot of writing on disruptive innovation or innovative disruption, however they phrase it. And we find a lot of disruptions in higher ed these days. So he particularly points out this little bit that I gave you guys, how a university like us, regional comprehensive, is particularly in the crosshairs when it comes to some of the disruptive things that are happening today. Now, you'll see that both these books were written in 2011. The Christensen one has some disruptors that have not proved to follow through and be as disruptive as he thought. He particularly emphasized MOOCs, the massive open online courses, and for-profit universities, some of which are now defunct. However, I've included a link in which he kind of defends, well, there's still some disruptions ahead for higher ed. And we can see that as a way to innovate and respond with positive, progressive, and helpful ways, or we can fall victim to a certain extent. I'm going to talk about some of the disruptors that I see that not necessarily MOOCs or for-profits, but what are facing us. But I think he does a good job of summing up why regional comprehensives are particularly in the crosshairs and we're in danger. I think some of the things that we've seen happen on this campus the past few years have been really great. The emphasis on the 4-year experience, the faceless on campuses when people come and they see this is a beautiful little liberal arts college. It's connected to Chattanooga, and they go, I could come here. I could go to a pep rally. I could go to a game. I could go to some arts events. I could hang out on campus on Chamberlain Pavilion and with my friends. And suddenly they see themselves in having a 4-year experience, which is one of the things that we can sell that other people do not have. It will help us fight this thing. I really appreciate the leadership that we've had with those kind of things. Okay, take your time, look over those. But in the end, we are about, and this is one of the things that's in our new handbook, and one of the pieces of language that Gavin was and you guys know I really thought a lot of Gavin, and we're going to miss him terribly. We're going to talk about a memorial of some sort for him a little later. But he really fought hard for the language on shared governance. And one of the things I want to read, this is something he had strong feelings should be left in. And it was from our original handbook from years ago. It was kept through the edits. And it says, the opinion of the faculty in these areas, this is the way we advise the administration. The opinion of the faculty in these areas is invaluable. Its advice cannot be lightly given or peripherally received. Institutional success depends upon the mutual respect and sensitivity of the faculty and the administration. The basic principle of the relationship is that the faculty and the administration are colleagues in shared governance. That is in our current handbook. And that is a goal to aspire to. And I think I really appreciate some of the changes that we're getting from the administration and the change in tone and atmosphere and acceptance. I really appreciate being invited to the leadership retreat this year and hearing some of the things and being able to be a voice for the faculty in that. I think we're on our way to figuring out, under the guidance of the new handbook, what does shared governance? Under the Board of Trustees changed policies. You guys should look at the new policies that the Board of Trustees have are different than they've been in the past, and they have recently been edited even more. But if you go and you look on what are the responsibilities of the Board of Trustees, and particularly what they give to the faculty, we are primarily, in the Board of Trustees policies that we cannot contradict, responsible for the planning and implementation, planning and development of the curriculum. That is our primary goal. Now, some of the other things that we used to kind of have as admissions requirements, graduation requirements, those things were listed under our faculty guidance are no longer listed in the Board of Trustees policies. So that is a given. That is what we are working with. So we have to take our job with the curriculum very, very seriously. And as shared governance. By the way, I really appreciate the FARC members. Last year, as we really wrestled with some of the language about FARC and grievances and the relationship between the administration and some of them really came out and helped provide some insight into how do we protect the faculty and particularly the tenure and academic freedom. So that was really great. So having said all that, there are still disruptors that we're going to be facing as a university. Things that we need to be aware of is our relationship to the new board. Most of you guys know that we have a new Board of Trustees, a smaller, hopefully more efficient Board of Trustees that no longer has a faculty member on it, although faculty members are in advisory capacities there. But what is this new board? How are they going to relate to us? It's not the board that we thought we were going to get. And so how do we build relationships with them? And this, of course, would be mostly our administration building those relationships, but also us as faculty through the UTC and other organizations. How do we respond to what the new board is doing and have as much of a voice as we can? There are a lot of political things going on, always. So how do we respond to that? So I don't have my head around a lot of that. I do know that there are some relationships between some of our universities and the state legislature that have some animosity, and we get caught in the crosshairs of that sometimes. The new emphasis, and this is not necessarily political, but it is a good thing on a certain level. It makes it difficult for us, but it's disruptive for us, is the emphasis on two-year schools, Tennessee Promise and Tennessee Reconnect. How is that going to affect us? And we'll get more and more data on how those students are transferring over and what we need to do in response to that, what do we need to do to recruit transfer students, what do we need to do to adjust our curriculum so that those students get in without as many hiccups as they have in the past, that kind of thing. Of course, all this affects funding. We're going to have some funding issues to deal with. And Mike has done a great job over the past year working with the Budget and Economic Status Committee to kind of keep track of the data, particularly stuff related to faculty and merit raises, across the board raises. I'm just going to continue in that capacity as chair of the Budget and Economic Status Committee and help us keep an eye on that. So there's a lot of data you guys have to sort through, and it's very useful for us. And I think we should have a voice in what kind of business model we're going to be. I hate to say that because I don't want to be part of a corporation, but I think if you read inside Higher Ed Chronicle, you're seeing that we're going to have to adjust. So how does a faculty become part of that? So my goals are that in here we will have vigorous discussion, debate even, I'll try to keep it within Robert's Rules of Order, but we are faculty members. We're supposed to have strong opinions. That's what people should expect from us. Not be shocked by the fact that we have strong feelings and opinions and informed opinions. To continue to build faculty morale. You guys know that that's one of the things when I ran for this position. I was like, we got to do something about faculty morale. So any ideas you guys have? I already think there's some things that are happening that are going to be positive, but what can we do to improve faculty morale? The inclusion of many different voices, points of view. I think as many different voices should be at the table as possible. So, and I think we're already, we have a healthy set of voices on the executive committee right now. We should be equipping faculty with information, trends, data. As much as you guys can meet with your constituents, the other faculty members, that chain of information has been something that hasn't always been there. People don't necessarily go to their senator for information. I know there's a handful of you guys who are a conduit for information from the faculty, and I appreciate that a lot. Because I see, they're listening. People know if I want it to be mentioned in faculty senate, I go to this person. But we all should do that. We should all be reaching out in our own way to the faculties that we represent. And of course, advocating for the faculty, always. So big issues. Something I've been thinking about since the leadership retreat is this idea, and many of you guys have read where the governor has some using analysis of the speedboat versus the battleship, and to your colleges being the speedboat, and us being bigger schools being the battleship, and how do we move faster? How do we maneuver faster? I don't know if there's an easy solution to that. We are big. We are cumbersome at times. But I think we should be looking at our curriculum committee and seeing, because we know that the committee is overworked and there's a lot of changes going through. Is there advances in technology? Do we divide that committee up? We're not probably going to, in my opinion, probably become a speedboat, but we could create faster ways to do some things. And so any ideas you guys have about that, let me know. I think that's going to be something, and it's part of the response to the disruption. How do we get faster at the things that we need to and not get held up on things that we don't need to just because it's the way we've always done it? Maybe one of the biggest issues this year is FARC. The Faculty Administrative Relations Committee has been redefined a little bit in the handbook. We are pairing that with an ombudsman after UTK's model. And all of that, you guys probably know it was just the beginning of August that this new handbook took effect, so we got to see exactly what was kept and what we had to deal with it. We couldn't put it into effect until August 1st. So we're trying to figure out, and the way the ombudsperson role is stated in the new handbook is that the chancellor will appoint with the advice and consent of the Faculty Senate Executive Committee, a faculty ombudsperson. So I know the chancellor is looking into that. We also have expanded the role based on those kind of heavy negotiations the past year and a half. Expanded the number of FARC members. I've said that 1,000 times. FARC members, there are 6 now instead of 3. So there'll be 2 appointed every year. So we're going to have to figure out, basically what we'll have to do, we have 2 existing members, and they've both agreed to continue. And so that leaves us 4 positions. We'll have to put 1 as the 3rd year, 1 as the 2nd year, and 2 as the 1st year. That is voted on, it's nominated and voted on at full faculty. And this was something that the existing FARC committee felt strongly about, that it should be a full faculty decision. So we will be sending out notifications for people to be nominating and thinking of people to nominate, and then vote on it in the full faculty meeting. If there's not a quorum, then we'll go to an email vote of some sort. But we have to get those 4 people. So be thinking, if you know people that you would like to represent us in the Faculty Administrative Relations Committee, let us know. So I've already mentioned the ombudsperson. Here's a biggie, and Provost Hines is going to mention it in a little bit more detail. But in our new handbook, we have EPPR, the Enhanced Post-Tenure Performance Review, EPPR. The board has mandated and language has been sent to UFC, to the CAOs of every institution, saying we're now going to also add they're calling either a PPR or a PTR. They're going, Linda said the other day that they're still debating that. So PPR would be periodic post-tenure performance review, or basically PTR, post-tenure review, which would be every 6 years. So there's some language that they have given us to look at. The faculty executive committee will be looking at that in the handbook committee as well, with in conjunction with the deans and provosts. We'll have a voice in that, but it's largely mandated what that's going to look like. And it'll be a review every 6 years with your promotions counting as a review. The main concern that UFC has seen now about it is the burden on the committees that have to look at these. So there's some really creative solutions to how some of that can happen, to not overburden the faculty to be on these committees to look at PTR or PPR. I know the provost is going to talk to us a little bit about Gen Ed Refresh. We're going to have to kind of figure out what's going on there with him and how we can help them with that. Not necessarily this year, but over the next year, we're going to start to figure out what's going on with 15.4. This is one of the things that's going to help us financially, that Dr. Brown and Dr. Engel were able to get past through the board, that we will be requiring 15-hour minimum for 4 years, and as 15 hours as a full-time load. So what that means for us as faculty, we have to keep an eye on is how do we fill all those classes, if there are going to be more classes, if there are going to be, what kind of data set we show. But that's really not going to kick in until later, but we just need to start thinking about and planning for that. There are other universities who've done this in our system, and we need to figure out how they did it and how they had enough faculty to handle that. And then the last thing is we're going to, I think, take another more extensive look at experiential learning. We all know, we all go to the high impact practices seminars that are at each of our disciplines, and that comes up a lot. So what are we going to do about it? How are we going to work with it? How can we become a speedboat if it is decided that we're going to put an emphasis on experiential learning? Not that every class has to be experiential learning, but if we're going to put an emphasis for our students, how do we as faculty respond to that? And we're doing a lot of things already that fall into those categories. How do we quantify that? And we should, as for the curriculum, as the main thing that is under our purview, we should be anxious to put our voice and not just obstruct. And, I think we all know that the high impact practice is really good. Not for every class, but for many that we're already doing. So how can we be a part of that and get it done quickly? Okay, that's me running off at the mouth, and I won't do that every week. So I took a little liberty, and I appreciate you listening to it. Any questions about anything I threw out at you? Would you please sit down and shut up, Steve? Okay. So we have some administrative reports. I've asked any of the administrators if they'd like to say something. So, Chancellor King.
Thank you all for serving on the Senate. We're delighted you have invested your time. It is really important what you do, so thank you. I want to just hit a couple of priorities for the year. And experiential learning, we did have a leadership retreat with the deans and the vice chancellors. We included your faculty senate presidents and Steve Ray. And we looked at experiential learning. We had Linda Bachman from the University of Georgia, where the faculty decided it should be a requirement. I don't know if it should be here or not. It's something to consider. But we do quite a bit already, but we don't really track it well. We don't have a way to give credit. We don't work it into your workload. It's not formally a part of merit and promotion. It ought to work into this. There are a lot of aspects for experiential learning. mostly the impact on students and their progression to graduation and out into the workforce or to further study. It opens so many doors for our students. And how do we tell which students we ought to intervene with because they're not doing anything? If they go and sit in their dorm room, they're going to miss out on an education. The classroom is wonderful, but applying knowledge to real-world problems or to performance on the stage, in a research lab in my field, that can really make a difference. Getting involved in the community, internships. So there's experiential learning. University of Georgia looked at this, and Provost Hein will have some information there. We're going to try and take advantage of Dr. Bachman's offer to come and have some discussion with us, talk about what they did right, wrong, and some of the decisions that we would need to make if we are going to try to institutionalize this, whether it's a requirement or not. The other part of our retreat was looking at disruption and where we're going in the future. What will happen to us if a degree is not really the coin of the realm to give to a student as they leave our campus, but we're certifying competency in different areas. We're retraining people. What does that mean? Those were some of the things we were trying to tee up for further discussion in the future. The research areas that we're looking at, areas we want to make some investments that we think should be generating revenue back to help sustain them, are in the health and managing wellness area. And so we have our new MPH program starting with a full class this year. We're looking at a PA program. We're planning a health science building. But there's so much more to wellness than just the direct health-related fields. And there are funding opportunities and investments that need to be made. Second area is big data, urban dynamics, modeling, simulation. We have a sim center, but across the campus, there are so many things going on in those areas with from business, mathematics, in public health, in engineering and computer science. So managing health and wellness, big data, computational science and engineering, entrepreneurship is the third area, which ought to touch every program. And we think that there's being an entrepreneurship program, there ought to be a way to generate revenue there. The fourth area, which we've had as a priority, is an investment, is teacher education, because this community needs us to have a top quality teacher education program. It's not saying we're not going to make hires in other areas, that we're devaluing anything, but in areas where we think we can generate revenue and improve contract and grant activity, those first three areas I mentioned are obvious ones. In my past, I was Dean of the College of Science and Agriculture, and I had a competition with the Dean of the School of Education about who would have more grant money per faculty member. And he beat me with about $450,000 of grant money per faculty FTE. There's actually opportunity there depending upon how we do it. So those four areas are a place that we're looking to move forward. The Board of Trustees is a place that Steve mentioned. We're trying to indoctrinate people. It's not a full roster yet. There are still 3 open slots that the governor may name. The first board meeting is November 1st and 2nd in Knoxville. And the board has got some big things in front of it. One is the president of the UT system is set to retire June 30, 2019. And how are they going to manage that? And what will they do there? There's an interim chancellor at UT Knoxville. So those are 2 big things in front of that board. The UT Focus Act also called for the formation of a local government board. I was asked by the governor a couple of times in discussions to provide some names that he might consider, and he said he would look at others and may or may not include people that I suggest. I'm told that those have been firmed up, but I have not seen the list yet. They're trying to make them public all at once, and Knoxville has not been consulted yet. So they will have a local board, UT Martin and UT Health Sciences. There will be a faculty member on our local board, and your Senate has worked out a process for appointment, and Gretchen Potts will be the first faculty member on that. There'll be a student appointed by the other 6 members of the board. So of the 6, 1 is a faculty member, 5 will be from outside of our campus, outside of state employment. 3 of those 5 have to be an alum of UTC. 1 of the 5 have to be a resident of Hamilton County. We will see how those appointments are made. The role of that committee is to serve in an advisory capacity to the chancellor and to provide input to the UT Board of Trustees on the strategic plan and the budget for the campus. So now, one person that I did recommend to the governor be appointed to our local board was Vicki Gregg, who for 3 years was chair of the Student Success and Student Affairs Subcommittee committee for the UT Board of Trustees. She's been on the UT Board for 6 years. She knows a lot about UTC. She's been on our foundation board. So people of that stature, she ran Blue Cross Blue Shield here in town for a number of years before she retired. So we will have a local board at some point this fall appointed. With the governor's term ending and the fact that the legislature has to confirm the 5 appointments that the governor will make, he wants to make sure that he chooses people that the legislature will approve. And so I think that's part of the delay in releasing the names here. So that's at least a couple of the things I wanted to relate to you. I think Dr. Brown at some point will make some comments in addition to Provost Hine and look at some of the facilities things that are going on right now and some things that are about to start which will impact all of us. So with that, I don't know if you want questions or any.
I'd just like to express one concern about the legislators approving these board members. I mean, isn't part of the role of the board to present our unique UTC perspective, alternative voices, and sometimes dissenting views? So why do the legislators need to approve these people?
Well, they passed the law, and,
okay, then.
and in the law it says this is what will happen, that it will be approved by the Senate and the House. So the General Assembly votes, they can, for either the UT board, I think for the local board, these members could be called out if they're not doing a good job in the view of the legislature.
I didn't know that was part of the law. So
yes, it is. So it is available, and we can make sure we have copies posted somewhere. I actually looked back and read some of the things again recently so that I could represent this. I had missed that one of the representatives has to come from Hamilton County out of those 5 on our local board. Kim White, who works for River City, is a UTC alum. She is on the UT Board of Trustees. So she is one of the 8 people right now. The Commissioner of Agriculture is a continuing member, the only one. He's a political appointee of the governor. With the new governor, there'll be a new Commissioner of Agriculture, and so Jay Templeton will probably cycle off unless the new governor appoints him. So Kim White knows about UTC. Jay knows about UTC. He's been on the board, been involved and engaged. Everybody else is brand new. So we're trying to engage them, get them on campus, interact, get the opportunity to tell them what we do, because it's a very different kind of business than people might be used to. Is there one other question?
Before I make my formal remarks, I want to thank Steve for covering everything I have in my notes. We just need to talk more often before these meetings. I appreciate it. I'm George Hind. I'm the interim provost this year. I think you all know I was interim dean last year of Arts and Sciences. Because of the surge, the failed surge, I'll be in this position for a year. And I'm looking forward to working very closely with all of you and certainly all the deans, department heads, and other administrators and units on campus. I will say, having been a provost before, it was disturbingly easy to sit in that office and realize the issues that we have in front of us this year. Nonetheless, we have, I think, a unique constellation of talents here at this university. So I'm looking forward to this being what I would consider to be a fun year. I'm looking forward to working with all of the different units on campus, as I said. But to be fun, I think we really need to be good at listening to each other. I think being disruptive and being, being a contrarian is a good idea. But I love the fact that Steve is also a collaborator. And I had that opportunity to get to know him last year in Arts and Sciences. So I think that'll help a lot. I think unapologetically positive. And I think part of that is that I enjoy listening to people. I enjoy problem solving. I enjoy collaborative efforts. So my philosophy going forward in this year is to work with people, to work with groups, to work with the faculty senate in ways that advance the goals of the university. I really have two large responsibilities. One is certainly to represent you all, to represent the academic community, the higher administration, to respond to the things that the chancellor needs to respond to, whether it's the UT system office or other entities through the resources we have in the faculty and the administrative academic affairs infrastructure. The other is to try and move conversation forward to help the chancellor achieve the objectives he just went through with you all. He has a very good vision. I think the presidential address is coming up in a couple of weeks, I believe. I looked at it and saw it on my calendar. Thank you for nodding your head, Terry. I appreciate it. What is it, 14th? Very good. Looking forward to that. But I think the chancellor just articulated, I think, very well his priorities moving forward. We have tremendous opportunities here in the Chattanooga area as a regional university and as part of the UT system, I think, to really move forward in ways that make this a very unique institution, a unique institution because of its faculty, its programs, and its way of interacting with its surrounding community. To be successful, I need help. I need your help. But I also want to acknowledge Matt Matthews, who's sitting up back there with the yellow tie on. Former chair of mathematics. I think you may know that he accompanied me from Arts and Sciences into the Academic Affairs Office. He is very important this year because, number one, he knows the university at a much deeper level than I do and can advise me to under pitfalls, things to watch out for, or really round out the conversation and my knowledge as we move forward making decisions and strategic investments. So I'm thrilled to death to be able to work with Matt. He's also very important for another reason, because with the successful search at the end of this year for a new provost, he needs to be able to sit at the table with either whoever it is, him or her, and explain why we are marching down the path that we are. And I think his involvement this year in all of our discussions is going to be very important. He's a good critical thinker, and I'm looking forward to working with him and all of you and moving forward. A couple of other things I think that are important as we move forward. We've already mentioned general education. General education conversation moving forward this year needs to build on the refresh effort that encapsulated last year. That was an interesting effort for me to observe and participate to some minimal degree in, because the start was a little bit ill-defined, but at the end, the amount of enthusiasm, the feeling of accomplishment, the pride in the discussions resulted in what I thought was a rather inspiring conclusion to that effort. The advantage now is to meet with the refresh committee from last year. I want to get their input, they've submitted a report, get their input on what they might view as some recommendations for what we might call Refresh 2, another committee to be appointed this year to move the ball further down the field and some accomplishments that we can aim for this year, but also to really have a conversation about what might be some long-term goals for our discussions as we move forward. I'm looking forward to that. We also, of course, are going to be moving forward on general education assessment. The good news is that we are now apprised of the fact that our report to SAC-COC is not due until September of 2021, with the visit occurring on campus in 2022. What that does is it gives us a little bit more time to really drill down and do a pilot on our assessment this year of two of our areas that we want to assess as a pilot. And that, of course, would be critical thinking and written communication. It will allow us plenty of time to do a pilot on assessment, refine the pilot, perhaps do a second, more comprehensive pilot, so we're really in a good place to launch the assessment, so we have 2 years, at least 2 years, of good data regarding the impact of our general education curriculum. That effort needs to be faculty-led, and academic affairs' responsibility in this is to facilitate moving forward over time so that we achieve the goals that we will. The way I look at it is that we have a general education committee moving forward and discussing the many issues associated with our general education. We need to have an interleaf general, and by the way, that general education assessment, the general education committee needs to be interleafed with the faculty senate general education committee. We want to make sure that everybody's talking. And then we need to have a collaborative effort, cooperative effort in the area of general education assessment. So those three kind of initiatives need to move forward, interleaf, communicating with each other to really help us move forward in all three of those areas. We have other priorities for this year. As already been mentioned, post-tenure review. The board has provided us, and having had input from the chief academic officers, the chancellors, and other groups, has come up with a template for post-tenure review. It's very clear that that's the template we are to use. There are some areas to fill in details of the process, and I'll be working with the deans, the department heads, certainly faculty senate, to garner some input on some of the things that we do have a little bit of input on. But it's real clear that the final recommendation and the final decision needs to be made at the chancellor's level. And we do have a little bit of a timeline on that. We, being the institution, needs to respond to the system by October 15th as to how we're moving forward with our post-tenure review, using the template that has already been provided. That'll be certainly something to think about. I think you all know that last year there was a mandate also that came down that requires us to have college-level promotion and tenure review committees. These are to be advisory to the dean, and then, of course, the dean makes a recommendation to the provost. And we will be moving forward in making sure that each college has its own review committee at the college level. I think the concern there was, by the board, was that perhaps there wasn't as much scrutiny occurring as the dossiers move through the system. So the college level committee, it's very clear, should not be an independent review of promotion and tenure dossiers coming up. It should be primarily a procedural review. Were all the benchmarks kind of hit on time? Did in fact the candidates receive a fair hearing? And so we'll be working with the deans on establishing those at the college level. We also, as has been mentioned already, will be moving forward on discussions, and I think this is for the faculty senate, it's going to be absolutely critical, on experiential learning here on campus. I think many of us, paying attention to the literature across the country and some of the issues in higher education, it's very clear that while we have a general education curriculum, an absolutely wonderful degree programs for our students, and many of our students go off and accomplish things that they never even would have imagined. We're very proud of them. But it's also very clear that just having a college degree may not be enough in this day and age. What you do during your college experience can help define you as you start to move into your profession or your career opportunities. And so we want to make sure that the students at the university have an opportunity to engage in experiential learning opportunities that are tied to our learning objectives in ways that benefit the students in ways that they maybe didn't expect as they came into the university. We also feel that I think there's a good feeling in the land that experiential learning opportunities can lead to employment opportunities. They can actually help one maybe decide to move into a different direction as they pursue their coursework here at the institution. It's a wonderful way for the university to interface with the community, whether it's a professional community for some of our pre-professional programs, or whether it's just the community at large, where our students can find meaningful experiential learning opportunities. So we'll be trying to move that conversation forward. I think it's also fair to say that this is a great year. We continue to work with the deans, the department chairs, with you all in articulating our graduate programs in ways that will not only serve the needs of our current students in the ways that we have conceptualized it, but also perhaps answer the question as to what graduate programs should we be accelerating our support for, or perhaps what new graduate programs might we need that serve two things. One is to serve the students that could be attracted to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, but also take advantage of the faculty that we have on this campus to do new and innovative things, to really kind of maybe turn things around and do something quickly to offer programs that will help distinguish this university from other regional universities and obviously attract more students. We also have, and I've just got two other things to mention here, we need to move forward on our lecturers. We need to make sure that as the lecturers, we have now, by the way, hired some lecturers on multi-year contracts. I'm thrilled to death at that. I think that is exactly the right thing to be doing. We need to work a little bit with our deans and department heads and faculty senate to get some input on how lecturers might be evaluated as they move from the different ranks, so to speak. So I think that is a wonderful opportunity for us all to, number one, recognize the incredible contributions our lecturers make to the academic programs here on campus, but also to help recognize the fact that they are part of the academy. We value their accomplishments, and we want to make sure that as they move through the ranks, so to speak, that we value their professional development as well as we do for tenure track faculty. And kind of the final thing here is just simply an announcement. The Gary professorships, the call and rubric will be sent out for those. We're on a little bit of a short timeline here. The deadlines to receive those nominations will be September 15th. So please convey to your colleagues or consider yourself in terms of taking a look at the rubrics, taking a look at some of the criteria, and what those Gary professorships are really supposed to represent. So we look forward to receiving those nominations. I'm looking forward to establishing a review committee because I get to review all those things as well. And it's a wonderful way for me to really find out some of the incredible things that our faculty are doing. So really to kind of sum up, and I appreciate the time to kind of present some priorities here. I'm unabashedly positive. I have absolutely no doubt that good listening skills and a little bit of humor will help us all move forward in a way that's productive. I also have kind of my own personal goal, is that there's going to be a provost search. I'm absolutely confident it will be successful. In fact, I'm going to be nominating some people. So I have a vested interest in this search, I think you can see. But one of my goals for this year is to not only be able to say, this last year, this academic year that we're talking about, we accomplished these things. And importantly, you need to know that these are all part of a strategic plan to move forward in ways that we can understand. Small example, with the General Education Committee, I would really love to see if we might not be able to establish a first year, a second year, third year goals as we move forward in our conversation. so that a new provost, when they come into this office, can sit down and be proud of all the accomplishments that were made this academic year and see that there has been forethought in how to move the university forward. That will allow them not only to be able to move forward that honor in ways that honor all of the hard work that you have done and others on campus, but will also allow them a clear opportunity to decide what kind of priorities might they have that will continue to enhance the academic reputation in concert with the priorities that the Chancellor has laid out. So thank you very much, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions insofar as I can. Yes, please.
You said that the campus plan for post-tenure review was due to the system on October 15th.
Yes.
Will post-tenure review be implemented this academic year?
My understanding is yes. As I read the document, it's up to the institution to figure out how they're going to do that. A concern I have is, I'm sure you can understand this, there are many, many faculty that are post-tenure. And that's going to be a bolus of faculty to try and progress. So we're going to have to figure that one out. I have no idea how we'll need input on that. Yes.
Well, a concern that I have about that, as someone who's been tenured for quite some time, is that when we were on the tenure track, we kept the information, we put it in the dossier, and just added to it every year. Haven't touched it in 10 years. I mean, putting that stuff together is going to be a major time sink.
Right. Well, I can appreciate that. Certainly understand that as well. I am hopeful that the guidelines that we put forward in concert with the template that has been provided will not make this such an onerous task that it becomes a time sink. Certainly appreciated that. I will say, having had prior experience when I was provost at other institutions, something like 96 to 97% of all faculty say that by and large. There were some faculty that probably needed improvement, but and it was a similar size institution, I might say. So my concern would be that we don't over-require information to make judgments as to faculty are they still kind of honoring with their contract that they were hired for, and are they still contributing to the academic mission of the university? And the question is that basically we don't need a lot of information, but we need input from everybody to decide what we require of that.
And would y'all share with us this template that is marked up yet, so that like, if we need to be starting to gather information, go ahead and we take that together?
I believe you have a copy of the last one, is that right? My thought, and Steve and I had a little bit of conversation about this, and I think it's really going to be up to Steve, is that we, being the system office, actually said that we should get input from the faculty senate, and that should be advisory for the chancellor as well. And I think it's really kind of up to Steve to decide how to do that. Just being kind of on the outside, a little bit of a conversation we had is the handbook committee would be an obvious place to take a look at this, but the executive committee would also be appropriate as a conduit, as thoughts to be shared with the chancellor. Steve, you want to?
I think that's a great way to start. It is largely prescribed and almost like that. We think we'll just get our hands on that and decide exactly what it looks like. But so that the committee, in fact, executive should be the ones looking at it.
There, I am abundantly sensitive to the points you made. That it should be so overly challenging. Some other questions that we can please to try and take a stab at? And smile, your days on that.
Steve, thank you much. I appreciate it. Dr. Brown, insurance.
First, I want to echo what the Provost and the Chancellor said about thanking all of you for being a part of shared governance here at the university. We're looking forward to another great year with you this year. Here's some quick updates. Things that keep me up at night, of course, audits. We experience about 23 of those on the state and federal level every year, and I'd like to say that we're in great shape. We passed all of our audits. We just closed the year-end books for 17 and 18 this year, and state law requires us to close the books in fiscal black. You don't do that, it's a big penalty. So We did that very well. Our control of the system has accepted our report, and we did very well this year. I really want to pause and thank all the deans, directors, and department heads for strong physical stewardship this year. All of you did really, really well. We've been criticized a little bit for not spending enough cash. You did a really good job with that this year. I want to thank you for that at the end of the day. We will be giving back carryover funds very shortly. I have a conversation with the provost and the chancellor to talk a little bit about that, both in specialized fees and some unrestricted dollars that we will return back to the departments. The university's financial position, we start in a very strong, healthy fiscal position. I'd like to tell you that. So we start out in a good way this year for our budget and financial planning. Our fund balance remains strong and really a bit above what is required. We always like to have a little bit of cushion in the fund balance. So we're in really, really good shape with that. I'm also looking forward to working again this year with the Budget and Economic Status Committee of the Faculty Senate. They were very advisory to us with regards to compensation planning. We were able to distribute our 2.5% compensation pool very well. We were much more transparent in that, and they helped us with defining what transparency would look like. We're also beginning the process to start the budget process for 19 and 20. You close one set of books, you open up another planning process. I'm excited about reaching out to the Faculty Senate and to the deans to be a part of, an active part of this budget and planning process. If you look around the campus, a lot of good things are going on. A lot of projects were completed this year. We had a very successful opening of a new $70 million residence hall that occupies the corner of Houston and Vine Street very well. Located within that project also are new food items. There's the chicken dippers and an Einstein bagel, along with the Barnes & Noble bookstore. So if you get an opportunity to go by, stop in and see students, it is a very beautiful facility as well. We also completed a $3 million renovation at the Crossroads dining services for students, faculty, and staff. It is themed with the power seat throughout the building. We opened that space up, nice windows now there. And the food items are a little different, so I want to encourage you to get in there and see that as well. Some other updates, we'll continue to work with the provost and the deans on our online fees. You as a Senate asked us to take a good look at that and in fact report back to you this fall on how we're handling those particular fees. We're continuing our conversations right now to make sure that we're using those within the spirit of what the board passed when they passed that online fee. We're doing very well. We're doing a lot better. We still have some tweaking to do within the next 30 days, and I think we can get that accomplished working with the provost and the deans in that regard. Your campus is changing. Just take a look around you. It's a very beautiful campus. We know that the aesthetic quality of the campus has a strong impact on when students choose to attend the university. So I think our campus is much prettier than Knoxville. You don't have to sing that up the road, but of course I'm biased in that regard. But a lot of good things are happening. I want you to know that our Fine Arts Center project is scheduled to start in February of 2019. Finally, we've got some hard targets on that. The music and theater will move out of that building prior to February, and then the art will move out immediately following 2019 spring semester. 2 labs will remain there as we work through that project. Substantial completion is projected in 2020 for that project. We're excited about that. The Lupton building renovation project, the classroom building project, we've got a notice to proceed March 4, 2019 for that project. We expect completion June the 5th in 2020 for that project. A notice to proceed has been given for September the 4th of 2018 for that. Campus site improvements. Oak Street and Vine Street will undergo major transformations. The Vine Street project will start first. We have a notice to proceed on Vine Street. We've been waiting on city stormwater requirements before we could get a permit to start that project. Took us a while to help the city figure out we're not even in your stormwater zone. That's okay. But we do have a notice to proceed right now, September the 4th of 2018. What will happen there is that this street will be totally transformed. We dig up all the pavements. We put in cobblestone similar to what's in front of the library. You'll see major, large trees go in, nice ornamental seating, totally wireless, along and connected. Very, very beautiful. And then we will morph right into Oak Street as well. So those two major streets become much more pedestrian, student, and faculty-friendly streets. We've got an ADA project that it seems like it's taken us 10 years to complete. Finally, this Race Hall elevator project, you can see the front of it has been totally transformational for that area. We just didn't use it because of some design flaws. We just figured that out, how to get that resolved. We expect a permanent certificate of occupancy and opening on October the 15th. So you'll actually be able to use that elevator to go up to the second floor, race, and move it all at the end of the day. We're hoping that they may give us a temporary occupancy on September the 10th, but October is a hard date for that. Hunter Hall, we do have capital projects for Hunter to transform that building, but developing surge space so that we can appropriately move the faculty to keep them working. Doing the construction is a real issue for us right now. So we've got to wait on the timing of getting some people out of the state office building before we can start that particular project. We expect to start it probably in 2020 in September. We'll be working with that faculty very strongly. A lot of other good things are going on. The arena expansion project for the football expansion is underway. The planning is underway for that project. And what we're really excited about is this new health sciences building. The Chancellor's talked a little bit about it. It's a real collaborative project that we think will change the dynamics of 3rd Street forever and create a partnership between the Erlanger campus and the university campus. A major building. Right now we're looking at programming. Consultants are in, trying to help us really program that building well and really figure out the correct amount of square footage that's going to be needed there. We're excited about that. And of course, the Gary Center project, we just completed the roof on that building, and we'll start on the inside very, very shortly. So, great year for transformation of the campus. Any campus that's doing a lot of building is a campus on the move. So we have right now probably $200 million of capital improvements ongoing on the campus. So I'll shut up and you can ask me a few questions. Yes.
Sorry, I'm gonna put you on the spot.
You can always put me on the spot.
So last year, the Senate asked about online fees.
Yes.
And you're in a more back in November.
Yes.
I was wondering if there's anything that you can give us a quick update or anything.
Well, the good news is that we fully understand how fees should be used, and we're meeting the spirit of that. Things like the network, for instance, that really is utilized to facilitate online instruction. Those kinds of things. We're working right now within the colleges to say, online fees can be used for instructional costs, right? Support of instruction, faculty development, equipment, technology that facilitates that, all those kinds of things. So I think within the next 30 days, we'll have a good handle on that. It's a nice problem to have, but when the board passes a policy or a fee like that, you must meet the spirit of the spending associated with that fee. I think we're in good shape. I really do. So not too much of a spot. I think we're in great shape. Any other comments? Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to an exciting year with you.
Thanks, Dr. Brad. Anything else from the administration? Okay. I had no committee report sent to me, unless somebody knows something I don't know. Most of the committee chairs said they were good. We finished well last year. Thanks to Gretchen and everything that was wonderful. The only new business we have, and I put this out there, is that we would consider, I don't think today's the day to do it, but Jimmy, if you can pass out, this is the resolution for UFC, memorial resolution for Gavin that the UFC put together. We could use it as a model, borrow some words from it, but I'd like for us to take a little time between now and the next meeting to come up with some appropriate language about how we honor him. We'll also let people know about the scholarships that are founded in his name. So if you have any ideas about what this language will look like, go ahead and you can send them to me if you'd like, and we'll work on that and we'll have it to present the next time. Does anybody have anything to add to what I just said about the memorial? Any faculty concerns?
Yes, I heard secondhand that the university would no longer be funding paid staff. I wonder if that will happen. I heard secondhand that the university would no longer be funding paid staff. I wonder if that will happen.
Not to my knowledge. I sure haven't heard of that.
Well, yeah.
I'm glad you asked. I mean, that's certainly that's a good.
Okay, so
He's
that
finding
will,
Howard that he's done a good work. She's
okay, so that has not changed. Okay, I heard that from somebody who should have known, I'll be bringing it up.
So we get that in the notes that is non-faculty case. Any other faculty concerns?
I sent this to you, Steve, over the summer, but I've had a couple of faculty come to me, perhaps because I'm a young female faculty. Austin P just passed paid parental leave, and University of Memphis also has it, 6 weeks. Austin P is projecting that it will cost them $100,000 to have that paid parental leave, and so there's a concern from some faculty who come from other departments that this is going to impact our ability to recruit and retain young faculty.
See, I chair the compensation advisory board for all of the University of Tennessee. I have placed that as an agenda item for us to take a look at and benefits that we extend to all of the employees. So we will dive into that in this fall. Talk about that. And all the campuses are represented.
Well, I really think if we want to, I mean, it's one thing to recruit young female faculty members, but if we actually want to do them, we have to have some additional considerations. There was a young female faculty member several years ago who left. When she came in, she had a small child. They had her teaching 9 classes. There was nowhere she could get childcare for that. And she wasn't leaving, and I think that was a real loss. So we need to consider not just parental leave, but that continuing support for people with young families as well, if we want to.
I'm not sure that this is can be classified as faculty consultants. How will it work for faculty and administrators? Today, I had to contact one of my students who has already missed a process and one quiz in my calculus class. I ask you very much, and I believe this is a whole method. If you advise the student in connection with mathematics, the very first word you pronounce is attendance. That's all I want to say. There are second words, third, second, but attendance goes as number 1.
Could you sum that up for the notes that we had in the meeting? I'm not sure I followed exactly. You had some students who were not paying attendance at the top of their priority.
Yes. And what I'm asking is all of you to discuss mathematics with your pronounce the word attendance.
I'm advising mathematics students. But no attendance is the most important thing. Yes, absolutely. Any other faculty concerns? I do want to say one thing. We do have funds this year. We always have funds. We'd like to use those. So if any committees have some ideas about how they could improve what they're doing by bringing somebody in or buying books like those did for us last year, anything that we have a little bit of money we can spend. So if you have as committee chairs something you'd like to do to enhance your committee's effectiveness, just propose it to us and we'll look at it. And I think that's it. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Adjournment.
Okay, and second?
Second.
We're out of here. Thank you all.
Thank you.